Alright, welcome back. We got a couple of updates going here. Pretty much got the door sorted and figured out, and everything's working pretty good so far. Test fit in the window, did a whole bunch of re-sanding and smoothing and sanding and smoothing to get her all pretty well nice and smoothed out. There's still a few spots that are slightly out of whack yet that need to be addressed, but we'll get to those. Got all the door panel lines going, and as you can see, we got a couple of nice headlight areas going here. There'll be two headlights and then the wraparound turn signal side. This remains open, wide open as a vent. As you can see, we got a couple of some glass sitting here waiting for the lenses. They're going to take a little bit of work to shrink the width down sideways so that they fit in there a little bit. They'll go in behind there so that they're actually recessed slightly, and then let's see what we get for the rest of it. And then also got the dash pretty well figured out. Looks like the actual movie car dash, the way the Wraith Dodge Interceptor would be. So far so good. Everything is coming along just fine. Let's see if we can pop this open here real quick. As you can see, it pops out before it pops up. I doubt it'll sit there on its own at the moment, but as you can see, we got the door panel sorted basically. It all works for what it's got going on. All the lines look pretty reasonable. Once I get the black up on top and stuff, it'll smooth in there a little better, kind of reduce the panel lines a little bit more. So got the glass there. I still got to make all the little fins for up here. That's not too hard to do, other than cutting them to length and stacking them upright, and it's not as easy as it sounds, but yeah, it's not too hard. And then in the rear, still got to make the taillight panel, and then we can worry about the lower valance fascia afterwards. And I was debating whether or not I want to do the 7 holes in here like the real car, or if I want to leave it untouched. Because there's two versions of this. One, it has the 7 holes and it's open, and the other has a let's say it's a spoiler right here basically, or a scoop, where it has the 7 holes but the scoop does not. So this would almost look more like the scoop is closed, more or less. So that's kind of debatable yet. We'll decide. Personally, I like the 7 holes in there. It kind of gives it a little bit something more on the back side here, because really it's just a whole lot of aerodynamic bigness with nothing really there. So, but when it's in the black, that's kind of a cool thing. And we also have with us today a special guest, so if you give me a second, we'll get her over here. That's right, folks. We have the first version. Version number 1. Hopefully there's enough light in here. I noticed in the last video that the darkness was pretty damn dark. But as you can see, it's like red, then there's a dark spot, and then red. This isn't because of glue, this is just actually the way it belongs on the real car. It actually has a tail panel piece. And this one, you can definitely tell it's a little bit dusty. And here's a good example of the holes sitting in there. See, this one does not have the scoop, and this one actually has, I believe there's 9 holes in this one. Should have only been 7, but still, nonetheless. And as you can see, we got the scoop here with the red dividing line between that and there. And it also carries over underneath in here too, which is why that one does not have that on there at the very moment. Now if you're keen to the real car, yes, this is dusty. The real car does not have exhaust on the passenger side. It's a single exhaust to the driver's side only. This car does have dual exhaust. And as you can see, it has a lot of work in there. You can kind of see the hinges up in there somewhat. And the wire is actually for the lights. They do work on this one. It does have steering as well. It's part of the Jag kit. That's all good there, yep. But here is the fins, as we had kind of just mentioned. There's a good example of the layers of fins that are in there. And as you can see, that gorgeous color. It's total color flop depending on which angle you're coming from. But this is a very good example of the headlights here. I used clear resin on this one and it kind of ran a little bit, so it wasn't the best optimal choice. However, that actually wasn't the worst. And as you can see, this side does not have the door open. It's basically just got the panel line scribed into it. And everything else is pretty darn good. Now this window, basically this doesn't open, but this would. So this is your actual opening window, because you only have so much height in the door, it wouldn't take this whole thing. This is actually a piece of tape, and then a little bit of smearing around over top of it so that it kind of covers the sharp edges, and then it's just painted over as well, and there we go. Something I'll be doing on the on this one at some point once I find this body line. And let's Packard, get a load of this. Just put the damn thing on, let's get going. Yeah, imagine being dude opening the hood and seeing this thing underneath there, glowing red. It's super hard to actually see in there, but you can kind of get the idea. It gets a little too dark doing that. Definitely need a flashlight for some of this detail stuff. I don't know if you can see the little wires that are in there as well. Those are to represent the electricity. But this whole back area is all 100% custom handmade. Every last bit of it. Panels, shock, the way it lines up. All that good fun stuff. And then for the door, again, you pull it out before it goes up. And then once it's up, it's all on its own. There's no way I can probably get you a good shot in there without a flashlight. And this one, the body does not come off anymore. There's just no way to do that. It's solid now, pretty much. But this is the original version that I built, where all my template pieces came from. Oh, hang on. Alright. Had a little interruption there. Anyway, we were talking about the interior here, I believe. It's kind of hard to see, but the tan and the red is actually like a felt type material. It's really kind of hard, like a naga hide, I guess you would call it. But anyway, let's drop this back down. And again, on this one, every one of these panels, there's so many freaking little panels. Let's see if we can catch the door here. You can see my door panel customized. Actually have the tan is one color, the red is another, and this is actually two pieces of material. And it's got the filler panels in the bottom and all that fun good stuff. But once it shuts, it latches in there pretty darn smooth and good. See, as you can see in here, there's two of these support rods up in here on both sides. That was kind of fun and interesting to make sure that they just missed this, and they're literally right in the corner, but they work. Well, no, they're bottom corner. Yeah, right there. That might actually be why it doesn't want to go back and forth far enough. Might have to notch that out a little bit, but as you can see, the gap, that might actually be the very reason why it doesn't want to go forward where it belongs, or body come back, one of the two. But when you're looking at it, it's pretty sharp, it's pretty solid. I've seen a few people make these kits out of just the Jaguar, and they didn't do all the fun stuff in the nose. They didn't do as much work to it. You can still see the body line from the Jaguar. This part's usually lower, but in the real car, it's one long straight line, and it's reasonably smooth. You can see there's still some swoop to it, but it's nowhere near as much. There's actually quite a bit of filler in here. Just having this plastic sheet panel over here, you have to kind of get rid of some of this swoop out of here, and then kind of roll it down so that it has that nice flow to it. This one actually gives a pretty good idea of that flow. You can see there's still some example of the roundedness, but yet it takes a lot to fill all of that, and I probably could at some point, but sometimes enough is enough. Don't need excessive. So anyway, as you can see, we got some progress going here. And this ought to be kind of cool, having the two cars side by side with both of their doors open. I think so. Let's go here. There we go. And I do have a third one of these, which this one is painted at the moment, and this one has a wrap on it, which is a gold to purple flop, color flop. The second one that I did is identical to this, with the body wrap and the black, except for no door opens and no hood opens, but it is identical to this. And then this one, just being painted at the moment, I'm not sure if I'm going to do the wrap or not. I don't know if I have enough of it. So that's, I mean, gold wise, you can tell it's definitely a lot more coppery bronze color than this is, by all means. And the hardest part is getting this line and this line. It gets hard to make sure it don't buckle when trying to do it, because this is all one piece. This whole front section is one piece of that wrap. And to do it by oneself with no extra hands, 2 hands ain't enough. It's just not enough. So making that front corner wrap isn't all that easy. But it's possible. I could do it if I felt like it. If I have enough of it, I should say. So for now, I'm going to work on getting some headlight bezels and stuff figured out to get the front end to where once it's done with its final paint, then I can assemble those pieces. I'm also going to make the little strips that go in there, get them level, because there's only so high. And then I'll debate on the back holes, and I'll probably work on the tail light as well to see if I can get some of that started, and that'll get us that many more steps closer to being about ready to display it. So each step forward is another step forward. until you get to something like this that it's just badass. No other answer to it. It's just badass. So anyway, let's throw some more pictures in the mix here, and I'll be back with some more info when I get that far. Later. Alright, as you can see, she looks pretty well done, right? Pretty sexy car. I think I've gotten it to that point where any further messing with it is just going to cause something else to go wrong. She could use a little more buffing. She's got a nice decent gloss to her. She's got her headlights. Let's see if I can turn this around a little bit here. For the most part, I believe she's pretty well done. Granted, there's always more I could do, but at some point, the more I mess with it, the more chance I have of messing it up. So it's best to just call it good. Let's see if I can open this up here. Oh. Kind of wants to rest on that door post there, but it don't. Kinda. Yep, kind of figured that. Anyway, door does open, does have an interior. It's very hard to tell, but so there you have her. I will admit the paint is not perfect. You can kind of see in the red line, it's got a little bit of wave to it. That's a hand-painted pinstripe, but for the most part, she's got the look. Got my rear pan on up underneath in there. I gotta touch up them white spots that you see. That's where I cut the frame so that the rear valance will fit up underneath there. Probably one of the few touch-ups I will be finishing up here yet. You might be able to see a little white spot right there. That was from buffing. It got a little too thin. I'm just going to leave it, because if I paint over it, that's a whole lot of masking just for one little dot. I'd rather leave the one little dot and call it good. And as you can see, this little black right here, it's actually from the paint. Actually, when I did the clear, kind of came down onto here. So I could probably touch that up with a little dash of red and it would hide it a little better, but I may do that. just because that's kind of a standout eyesore. But she does have the wing on it. She's got the 7 holes back there, and this little piece actually covers them 7 holes. If you feel like putting that on there as a air scoop, I'll send it with as an option. But anyway, this is the car, the Wraith. I think she turned out pretty good. And in comparison to my full-on build, I would have to say, outside of the color being probably the only real issue, as you can see, mine's a lot more brown, kinda, which has a brown to purple gold flake fade. Really hard to see. I mean, it gets very similar in color in some spots, but then in other views it kind of gets a lot darker. And there's a good shot of the purplish into it, but and as you can see on mine, I went more rounded on the nose, just with the regular Jaguar, whereas this one I actually painted around the edge so that it has more of that squared look, and you can really kind of tell the difference between rounded and squared. But in the end, these are very nice customs, very cool stuff. Not one you find all over the place by any means. So I did think about wrapping this one the same as I did with this one, but it takes so much time to hold and stretch and get it to fit without a whole bunch of wrinkles, and making this multi-contoured area is not easy. Maybe if I had 2 extra hands it might help a little better, but holding the car and the wrap and the heat and everything else and stretching all at the same time, yeah, it takes a lot. So anyway, as you can see, the car is ready. And that's the only one that has the driver's side door open without the hatch. This one has passenger side door and hatch with all the details in the back. So, one of one. Even though there's 2 cars sitting here, they are not identical, so it is one of one. So anyway, that will conclude the build. I'm going to take a few pictures, add a few snapshots after this section, and that will conclude the build of the Wraith Dodge Turbo Interceptor MS4. So until we get on to the next one, which I have an idea which one it'll be. It's going to be a little bit, but we'll get that far soon enough. Till then, have a good one.